Aristotle said, "To write well, express yourself like the common people, but think like a wise man." Hey, this is KB. I'm a technologist, thought leader, and self-published author. I've been publishing ebooks, print books, audio, video, and other content online since 2015. I stumbled quite a bit, tried many different types of content, marketing strategies, software tools, and social media streams. Now I'm here to help you learn from my mistakes and find inspiration along the way. We'll take a journey together to leverage your content, dive into practical tips, and test out actionable strategies that move you from posts to profit. This is the Self-Pub Empire Podcast. According to author earnings, as many as 31% of ebook sales on Amazon's Kindle store are actually self-published. If you too feel a bit stifled within the boundaries set by traditional publishing houses, or wish to have a lot more creative control and royalties from your labor, Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP, could be the platform that launches your writing career. Self-publishing a book can do many, many things for you, my friend, my creator friend, from boosting your profile to really creating another stream of income. So today I'm very, very excited about this particular topic, jumping into starting in self-publishing and self-publishing your own book. And this is just the basics. There's a lot of detail that we can go into, but really this is where we began, and this is where I began. So these are the basics. I would say that every kind of creator, or almost every kind of creator, really can benefit from publishing their own book. It is different. It's very different than trying to use an agent to actually go and get your book out there. The large public houses have been gutted for the most part from what I've read regarding the amount of support they provide and money up front. It's very different than it used to be. Self-publishing has really taken those companies really kind of down a peg as far as what it is that they can and cannot do. And most of the time, the companies are really looking for celebrities and things like that to publish those books, much like guaranteed money really is what they're looking for. So it's not an easy thing, but that's not impossible either. And so I sounded like I am not real interested in the publishing houses. That's really not true. I think that they're still very strong in many categories and many facets. But doing something for yourself, especially when you're a creator on the outside edges of what normal publishing houses are going to publish, like cookbooks or very popular fiction or autobiographies of famous people and things like that, self-publishing gives you that flexibility of creating something purpose-built for your creativity and your creations that support them and help drive more business and more awareness. And you end up really in another search engine. If you do it on Amazon, like I'm talking about today, Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP, you are in one of the biggest actually product search engines really in the world is really what Amazon ends up being for you. So then your name is out there and it's really on there as a legitimate item that's available for sale, this book. And the other best part of it is it's on demand. You don't need to carry an inventory. You can, if you want to, you can purchase a bunch of books and have them available. For our example, I think that's probably what you would end up doing if the example that I'm going to talk about. But really, these are all print on demand. You don't have to actually have a large inventory of books or a preprint run of 20,000 books or something crazy like that. Instead, you create the book you want the way you want it. You have ultimate control and you have ultimate responsibility as well. With great power comes great responsibility of making sure that your book will print successfully, look good, and be a product that people are interested in purchasing and interested in actually owning and having. And it's very important when you actually are talking about physical product, physical books, physical Kindle Direct Publishing books, then that's really, really important. What's interesting about the print on demand space is Amazon purchased a company called CreateSpace many, many years ago. And really only within the last 5 years or so did they integrate it fully into Kindle Direct Publishing. So they had a Kindle publishing piece for the ebook part different site for that work, and then they had CreateSpace for the actual print element. Everything was unified now under the Kindle Direct Publishing moniker, and I think it actually is much more streamlined. And linking books together to say, hey, these are all the different formats you have of said book really are much better, I think, than it was in the past. Almost every really kind of creator can benefit from publishing a book. In a future episode, I'm actually going to go to outline each of the different creator types and how each book can benefit them. I'm actually going to use today a very unlikely example, something you may not think about, is a band, up-and-coming band, rock band, folk band, country band, whatever you want, solo artist potentially as well. Why would they create a book? They're a creator. Things are all digital now. It's all streaming, music, those kinds of things. And there's a lot of work just to get your music out there and published certainly on the streaming sites, or to even print something that you would have as a vinyl record even. That's very expensive to do. So what can you use a book for as a band to leverage that product as something that will help you gain followers and get gigs and become famous? I mean, that's really what all bands really want, right? So let's take this really unlikely example and move forward with it. So first, bands, and really you, the creator, my friend, can rely on the book to make a connection with your fans. This is the number one thing I think that you can do as a band, as a creator. For most creators, with a book, you're creating a connection with your fans. And again, I'm thinking an ebook, I'm thinking a physical product, a physical book. But for the band, I think we would talk about a couple ideas of what they would want to use a book for. Maybe not necessarily an ebook in this case, but let's say a print-on-demand kind of a book. So the first idea of a book that a band would want to use is to create a really nice, maybe large format, large print kind of, maybe not large print, but large format kind of a book with a lot of images, and it would be a color print with the band history, the band membership, pictures of gigs, fan pictures, those kinds of things, talking about origins of the band, member profiles, those kinds of informational items, and have it be very well graphically designed. So it looks really great. Hopefully you have some good images of your live shows. You can have a discography or some kind of listing of your songs, potentially lyrics as well, those kinds of things. And then in there, what are you going to do? You're going to have addresses of your online presences as the band. You're going to tell people how to book your band. Say, hey, this is how you can book us. You maybe have management, maybe you don't, maybe you're doing it yourself. You have other contact information. What is your creative process and what gear do you use? I like Zildjian cymbals, for example, those kinds of things. That information, fans would really love to see. It brings people closer to the band, makes them feel part of the band experience. Another idea, potentially if the band was working on, say, a high concept album or conceptually something that would be a little more in depth, you could collaborate with artists about each song. You could have some light storytelling in there. You can put your lyrics in there with artwork. One of the lost arts that we've come to in this day and age is vinyl is making a comeback, vinyl records, but really in that age, when vinyl was king for records, you had albums that had more and more information and posters and other fun things that people would get when they bought the vinyl record. And those were days when that print and those kinds of collateral really connected people with the artists. And as bands would get more popular, they could be much more elaborate with those kinds of things. Well, certainly that's an expensive proposition, but a book that you could print on demand and maybe have a few at the end of the gig for people to buy, you could sign those and make sure that you had enough copies for people, or maybe not, maybe make it a limited edition and only so many are going to go, and actually you could make some money off of that as well. So that's a bit of a stretch, but you see where I'm going with this, creatively thinking about using a book to leverage and enhance your brand and enhance what you're trying to do and connect with your audience. It is a stretch, but with self-publishing, it's not a large stretch. You can do this. Gives them something to autograph. They can have it at the back of the gig. They can buy things. They can take pictures with you and their cool books with you and so on and so forth as you, the band, are trying to connect with your fans. So keep that in mind. I'm going to use that example as we move forward. In another podcast, I'm going to go through and talk about what each type of creator can actually do with creating their own book, with the advantage of not having inventory and having things print on demand. Lots of ways to print other things on demand too, but definitely we're talking about books today. All right, so with all that said, let's jump into how we really actually go about doing this. A pro tip that I would actually recommend here is to actually create your KDP account first, really before you write. The reason I say that is I'm going to assume that you are very serious about writing your book and you probably have some kind of pieces put together or a really good plan or notes or something like that. What getting an account right away does for you on KDP, because there's no upfront costs, it's completely free, and you can always delete the account if you want to, is it allows you to actually see what Kindle is actually, and Amazon really wants you to actually put in to the information for the book itself in their, what they call their bookshelf. And so it gives you an opportunity to investigate the interface, explore it a little bit, and really get started with the end in mind. We've talked about that in the past, really beginning with the end in mind to get through projects. And really you want to take a look at this and it'll help you. Be careful being overwhelmed. There is a lot there and there's a bunch of help available as well. It's not extremely well paced, I would call it. It's there. You can look it up. There's a ton of information, but that's also a little bit overwhelming as well. So it is all there. Get your KDP account going first. So create your account. You want to sign up. It's free. You can use your existing Amazon account or you can create a new one, and that's based on your email address. So if you're serious, be business ready as well. Check out episode 002. Are you business ready? Be ready for this because, hey, guess what? If your book is selling and people want to read it, you're going to make money. And that means you need a bank account to have that money go into it. So you got to make sure you're business ready when you do this as well. So another pro tip here, make sure you're business ready, get your KDP account going. So when you jump into that, this is step one, create your account. You need your account info. This is very important so that you can actually get paid. There's information about the account holder, you, what kind of business you're looking at, you can do individual, but definitely, again, my recommended business, the date of your corporation, your address, your phone number, and these can all be whatever it is your company address information is. Make sure you add your bank account and go through that phase. That's the first thing you have to do. It can be a little daunting, but if you're prepared, you'll be fine to get through it. The next part about it is the tax interview. If you're business ready, like I recommended, and if you have a limited liability corporation in most states in the union, you can then go through that and tell them to withhold 0% income tax from the royalties that you're going to get paid, because that all happens through your limited liability corporation. They don't have to withhold taxes for you. That makes things a ton easier. Believe me, this is best if you're actually incorporated. So there's a tax interview. It's very wizardy. You have to go through that next. Once you're done with that, congratulations. You have a Kindle account and you're ready to start creating books. And of course, then you get this bookshelf view with a bunch of other options on it as well. So that can be a little overwhelming as well. There's some tabs. There's the bookshelf tab itself, which really is the list of the books that you are creating. So what you're doing is you will be creating a record of your book and then uploading and entering all the information about that book to that record. That is your book on your bookshelf. And it includes the book itself and all of what we would call the metadata around it, the description, the title, the series. It doesn't take all that information from your manuscript. It has to be entered separately. And it sounds worse than it is actually. But we'll go through the wizard on this as well. And it's a bit of a wizard. It's another set of tabs to go through to get your details put in and so on and so forth. So the bookshelf tab is where you're going to see the list of books that you've created. Another tab for reports. You definitely want to go check that out. There's a community, which is really support and a lot of great information in there and a very vibrant community of independent authors that talk there. In the marketing tab, there's a whole podcast that I'm going to do about marketing. I think there's just a number of things, and there's just really just a podcast by itself about the marketing things that you can do within Kindle publishing itself, KDP, that they are giving to people if you do certain things. That's a little more in depth than I want to go into today on this, because this is really just getting you started. But the Kindle marketing is actually somewhat helpful depending on your strategy, your goals. For right now, though, I think your goal is to get a book out there because it's burning inside you and you really want to get it out into the world. Okay, so you're looking at the big button that says create a book. You're ready to do it. But what kind of book are you going to do? Well, there's the breadth and then there's the width of types of books that you can do. Really, there are really only a few types of Kindle books to do, but there's also many, many genres, of course, that you're can write in. KDP has absorbed and pretty much put forth whatever it is that can be done these days in the art of publishing. So, of course, there's the ebook. That is, of course, what they're most famous for with the brand name Kindle. They have print, and we talked about CreateSpace, and you can print on demand. Again, that's great. No inventory. You need a wide variety of things with print. There's also Kindle Vella, which is newer relative to this podcast. And I believe Vella is short for novella. And it's like a podcast. So it's episodic kind of way to publish short stories or pieces of a story in really in portions. So that way you can have a novel that you're creating and people, your fans, your adoring fans, will get pieces of it on a regular basis. I don't know how popular that is at this point. The numbers are a little sketchy and it's not very well known. I don't know that Amazon's going to keep it. My instincts say they're probably going to get rid of it. I honestly don't think there's a lot of that going out right now. The last type of book, physicality of it would be a hardcover. That's relatively new as well. And I have had good results with it. I actually think the hardcover is really impressive from a print perspective. It is expensive to print because it's hardcover versus a softcover, but boy, it is really nice. I have to admit the quality is very high in their hardcover printing shop on demand. So here you are, you're ready, you've decided. Pro tip, if you're thinking about any kind of book, I feel that print, my recommendation, the pro tip there is you want to start with a soft cover print. And really, this is step 2. It's about compiling your book. Soft cover print, starting with that and focusing on making that work well and making that very nice, put together, professional looking, will lead you to have all the other types that you might want to do. Really, in this case, probably 2 other types, right? Kindle ebook and a hardcover book. If you're going to do that, they will look really great because you've started with the softcover print book. Ebooks are easier to get out there, certainly because of the flow of text that it allows you to do. So you need a cover and certain things like that. So that is a very fast way to do it, but the quality is very obvious. It doesn't look as professional. Start with a softcover print book and branch out from there. So here we are in step 2. We got to compile our book. Here's my example again. Let's go to the band. The band says, well, we want to create a book. So they downloaded a template. Really good first idea, right? Download your template for the interior. For one, you might want to consider, as a band, a large format, maybe an 8x10 rather than a 6x9 or something even bigger. They have some very large sizes. That affects a lot of things, but the print is very big. That particular soft cover is very nice, very physical book. Printing costs can be high, especially with color, and that cuts into your royalties. But an interesting point for like this band, these are probably more again towards you're going to want to cover just your costs and print some and have them at the back for people to buy and have you sign. So really that isn't as big of a concern for this kind of scenario. And color is definitely more expensive. But since it's a marketing vehicle, maybe that's part of your plan. And you can have some pretty large sizes. The largest for soft cover in what they call the large trim sizes is 8.27 inches by 11.69 inches. That's pretty darn big. The smallest, which they call the small size, is 5 by 8. 6 by 9 is the most common. Generally speaking, that is the most cost-effective trim size to print. And most of the fiction, certainly the self-published authors out there that print books, softcover books for their fiction works, usually go with the 6 by 9 softcover. Definitely easy. It's kind of like going to what you would call in traditional printing the mass market paperback. That's really the standard size. So a 6 by 9 is going to be there. Hardcover can go from a 5.5 by 8.5 up to a large size of 8.25 by 11 inches. That's pretty big too for a hardcover book. That's going to be pretty expensive to print. You can calculate that out in the support costs, and those will change. So I'm not going to bother talking about the print costs here. And again, they will do printing at cost, and then whatever price tag you put on it, that difference is going to be the royalties that you're going to get. Roughly, that's the very rough calculation. The calculation will be there for you, so you'll be able to check that out. But for now, you're kind of gathering your information here for your book, and you listen to my pro tip, which is create your book in the bookshelf in KDP first in the Kindle Direct Publishing as a record. And that way you can go in and you start with the 3-tabbed like wizard. It's like a wizard in there. So you review all these descriptive items on that first part and the information needed. And it has nice links out to detailed information from within that page. So I feel that's really important to do because it can feel quite daunting. But if you start step by step and look at it as they flow it through for you, it's really, really helpful. Get the template, figure out your size, see what they want you to put in, description, and so on and so forth. Once you do that, I recommend stepping away. Actually step away, go to Amazon and look at other books in your genre. Check it out. See what people are putting down. Check out the fiction, the nonfiction. Are there summary books that you're going to try to do, like crib notes kind of things, low content type workbooks, those kinds of books, whatever's in your genre. And then of course, in your specific, field, definitely check those out. Look at the prices and see what you can see and get the information on how those are set up on Amazon currently. And you're going to get a lot of great ideas on how to put your information in for your book here as well. Something else to keep in mind too, if you're going to target older readers, which is what we did with our Senior Dummies series, is to definitely make sure that they're large print. And you can flag a field in the system to tell it it's large print. And those come up on the large print searches. So that's really handy too, to actually say, hey, this is large print. And people doing searches on large print books will definitely find those in their list. A little bit easier. You get a little bit less competition then on that. So compile your book, look at your description. Okay, you're going to want to think on your next step, really to design your cover. This depends. How you do this depends a lot on what kind of book you're actually making. If you're talking about fiction, you really want to craft some eye-catching book cover. You might want to hire a professional designer to do it. And these first impressions do count. They're going to see that front cover material in the search that's going to come up. You're going to see that. They're going to see the back material cover as well. It's going to show the front and the back. So when it's first published, as a side note, another little pro tip, it takes a little while for the contents, the look inside part. Amazon will do that automatically for you. If you've ever seen that, the look inside piece that Amazon will do, but that takes a while. So really the front cover and the back cover are the first things that people are going to see when they look at your book in the search or look at your sales page for that. So you want to make sure you craft an eye-catching book cover of some kind. And again, go look at your other competition. There's room for everybody, no matter what it is, frankly. And you can look and see what other people have done and see what you might want to do for your own. And there's a couple ways to do that, like I said. For new authors of fiction, especially if you really want to just get the interior right, like if you're going to have a fiction book, so I'm going to ignore the band example for a second. A fiction book, as a fiction writer, you're going to have more words and less images, but you might have some filigrees and some things for each of the chapters and certain formatting specifics that you really wanted to try to help grab people's attention and ignite your fans' imaginations in that book. Well, how do you do that? Here's a little pro tip for you. You can actually create a book and use their KDP cover creator right in the system itself. Those covers aren't great, but there's a lot of free stock photos that you can use. And the format of where everything is graphically laid out on the page, on the cover of the book, that layout, the exterior layout, that actually is valid. You want to look at that. And so I recommend, as a pro tip, when you get to that point, go to the cover creator and create a very basic one using their system, just to see where placement they recommend for any of these things. There's a bunch of different templates in there you can choose from. Really help spark your ideas. Some people use them and just put their own photos and images in them, and that works fine. Personally, I think you can tell, and I don't think they look quite as professional, even if you're using your own photos and the backgrounds and things like that in the cover creator. But boy, it does give you a leg up on how to plan your work. So that's a pro tip. Go do that. I think for other types of books, particularly nonfiction for consultants, or even again, let's go back to the band book, that I think you're going to want to do some graphic design. And if you're good at graphic design, that's great. I personally love to do graphic design myself. So I actually do a lot of my own graphic design for covers and things like that. Sometimes it shows, sometimes it looks pretty good, but I enjoy it. So it's fun. I actually get a kick out of it. It's very fun. So you can design your own, you can outsource it. You can download templates. Oh, that's definitely a pro tip. Don't forget, download some templates from Amazon. Again, they want to help you with that, with the templates and what to do. There's a bunch of ways to do it. That's a whole nother podcast, to be honest with you, on how to design a cover yourself using free tools. My tool of choice is GIMP, GIMP. That's the GNU image manipulation program. It's very Photoshop-like, but it's also free. It's free and open source. Works really well for basic, but advanced enough that you're not using Microsoft Paint. It doesn't. I don't recommend Microsoft Paint for this kind of work. It's handy for certain things, but certainly not for designing a cover. GIMP, on the other hand, gives you everything you need. So that's my tool of choice. Download those templates. As a side note, before I forget, this is very exciting to me. A lot of times what you want is a book with a spine. And that doesn't mean a book that has guts. That means a book that has a thickness to it that you can read the title of the book on the spine itself. That's really useful, because what do you do with a book? You put it on a shelf and you can see the spine. So when you get to distribution, boy, that's a whole nother topic. It's in and of itself. Your book is going to be on a shelf potentially for people to buy, and they're going to see the name and the spine. That's really important. So keep that in mind with the number of pages. It does depend on the number of pages of how thick your spine is, which gives you how much real estate you need or how much real estate you're going to have for that spine. Another tool that might be really helpful, that's another free tool that can help you graphically lay out a cover that's really, really handy and really fast, is canva.com. I use it myself for a lot of other things too, and certainly for graphical layouts of interior pages and things like that. Really handy, a very powerful tool, also free. So go ahead and check out canva.com as well. All right. So now you have your interior, you have some thoughts on your exterior, your cover information, and you've gone through some editing and you want to get something out there, certainly from a proof copy. So you're going to jump into your bookshelf. You're going to go to your paperback details. There are 3 large tabs to get through, and you can't advance to the next one without getting through the first. There's paperback details is where you start. And then there's paperback content, and then there's paperback rights and pricing. Again, talking about soft cover. Kindle ebooks, it's a very similar model. And there's a pro tip here too. I'll throw this in here right now. Once you do this soft cover, you can add, and it'll convert for you and copy over information into the ebook version as well. So that's why your monetary nexus here is really the soft cover. And we talked about monetary nexus on your website. Your monetary nexus on your book is your soft cover. You can flow out information from the soft cover out to the other books and the other formats. That's another pro tip. Saves you tons of time. You don't have to reformat a bunch of things. Works great. And with Kindle Reflow feature, that's why it moves your text around based on where you are in the ebook. and you can't always place everything where you want it to. So that's why you place everything graphically in a soft cover book, and then you copy that over using their tools, which I can talk about at a later date, into the ebook. It's so much faster that way versus trying to create an ebook which has a reflow of text and text is moving around, and you don't really get that same layout necessarily when you try to move to the soft cover. So start with the soft cover first, then move to the ebook, then move to the hardcover. I cannot stress that enough. I don't know that a lot of people think about that. I think they start with ebooks because it is easier, but you want to start with creating a soft cover. It's more work, but it's less work in the long run. So the details page is where you start. Paperback details. There's a lot of basics here. Language, the title, is it a series? Series is another great topic to talk about later at a later date. That's a very helpful feature. It's very much aimed, as you probably can guess, at fiction books that are written in a series, Other important information here, critical information really are categories and keywords. There's a ton of digital ink spilled on categories and keywords for Kindle, Amazon, publishing books. And really the bottom line is you want to categorize it appropriately, and you want to have keywords that drive traffic to your book. So people do searches based on the keywords that match the book itself. They will use the title in the searching engine as well, but keywords are really the big helper as far as getting traffic driven to your book. Amazon is really one of the biggest search engines around for products and books. So it does pay to make sure you have good keywords, and you can use not just a word, you can use a phrase or a key phrase. So you can go with a long tail on this and get some very specific keyword for very specific searches for people to find your book. And finally, on the details page, of note, when you publish your book finally, when you pass this page and you get to the final book, there's a bunch of these things you can't change. That makes total sense. So that means if you really feel like you screwed up your title or series or subtitle or certain things like that, you really have to start over. Just so you know, you do want to do that and make sure you're really confident of what you want after you publish. You don't have to worry about that right away, but when you publish, you can't go back and change it. That locks those down. All right, so move on to the paperback content page going next. So you save that page, you go to the next page, paperback content page. The first thing you want to note is that you are allowed to get a free ISBN for your book. That's the International Standard Book Number. That's used for all books, and it is not the Library of Congress number. That's a different type of number, but the ISBN is used across the board to uniquely identify your book. That's really all it is. And Amazon will give you one for free. You don't have to buy one for yourself. The other parts of the page really are the trim sizes. You have to tell it how big your book is, not thickness, but the trim size. Are you a 6x9, et cetera, et cetera. And this is where you upload your manuscript. It is only accepting certain files, PDF files, document files from Microsoft Word, HTML, or rich texts or RTF files. That's it. I personally use a PDF. That's my favorite way to do it. And you can read what settings you want to have for that in their documentation. But really, PDF is my preference for this. It does lock things down nicely versus a Word doc where sometimes things can kind of move around. This is also where you upload your book cover, or you create the book with the cover creator. You do the cover creator piece. You can do it that way. It jumps you out to a different tool. That's where you set everything, and then you can save it. And I talked about that before, but it's good handy to get your book going just to make sure that you're going in the right track if you're not very confident. The book cover upload is really just a print-ready PDF. That's it. That's the only thing they accept. And GIMP is very good at that. I commented on that before to create that cover. I use it for all of my covers. Some are great, some are not. So I hope that everyone gives it a try and starts to learn it. Again, something else I can talk about in a future podcast and really how to create a book cover for yourself. So the other thing on this page that is extremely important, and you can't go any further until you do it, is the book previewer. And it's a previewer tool that pops up and loads your book, and you get to flip through the pages as if you're flipping through the pages. It will look for problems too, and it will note them. And if you don't fix them, it won't let you go any further. So basically what you have to do is say, okay, I'm going to go back and fix these things. So you save it in the preview. If it's all together the way you want it to, hey, no problem. You click the button to say I accept, and you're ready to move on to the next page. The cool part about that is once you do that, then it will give you a summary about your printing costs. So it'll tell you how much each one prints. And anything above that you charge, of course, is the royalties that you're going to get. So in the rights and the pricing page, it's actually pretty simplistic compared to all the other information that you've gone through. You've done all this work and you get to this page and I'm going to get to the finish line, because it won't let you get here unless you've got everything uploaded and accepted. And then it really just says, hey, do you have rights to this? And then you certify that you do. You can specify territories. There's a bunch of detail about that online. I personally don't spend a lot of time worrying about that. I am in the United States. My primary marketplace is Amazon.com. You can distribute to specific marketplaces or all marketplaces and make it worldwide. There are, certainly ways to slice and dice that however you want if you need to. I recommend, especially for a fiction book or like this banned book, for them, this would have been, all territories. Anybody can print one and get one if you have banned, fans in Sweden. Maybe you're big in Sweden, just like Spinal Tap. So here also, then you can set your pricing per book that you're going to charge the customer, and you will see the royalty rate. For soft covers, there's a specific royalty rate of 60%. You're going to see that, and it'll show you all those numbers. For ebooks, there's a couple different ways to do it. There's a 35% and a 70%, and then there's some downloading costs depending on whether you're downloading to Kindle. So they use that WhisperSync. That was a really big deal when it came out. It was using AT&T's cell phone network, and WhisperSync is still active. And I believe that they want to make sure that they are not charging a whole lot for those downloads or using a lot of that data. So I think that's why, and there's nothing to verify that, unfortunately for me. I can't find any information about it at this point, but that's why there's different royalty pricing. And that is it. This is where you can decide to request that proof copy. As I've noted before, the proof copy might not match the actual final copy. Sometimes I've noticed differences, and there were issues with the final copy that they didn't like for final publishing versus when I did the request the proof. A pro tip here is I would definitely order a proof copy for yourself, especially if you haven't done this before. It does take more time, but it's definitely worth it. They take time to get the print ready and then go through the printing process, and then there's the shipment process itself. It's a little bit of money too up front. It takes shipping costs and, of course, the printing piece that we just talked about of the printing cost itself. But it is definitely worth it. Even though it may not be 100% perfect like an author copy, you haven't published your book yet then, and that means it's still a draft. And if you screwed something up, you can go back and fix it. Once you hit that publish your paperback book or publish your ebook, you can't go back and fix those things like the title. If you made a mistake there, any of those things, you can't go back and do. You have to delete it and start over. That's not the end of the world. You can always copy and paste out of it something separately and restart again. But boy, I tell you, it's much better to be careful if you're not experienced with it, if you're new to this, to go through and do this. It's inspirational to me to see how many people have talked to me and I've told them about the books I've printed online and that, hey, I'm on Amazon and those kinds of things where they say, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. That's really great. I've always wanted to write a book. And I look at what's on Amazon and it feels like there's this mountain of people that are publishing books for themselves, and there's tons and tons and tons. But that tells you something, that it's actually a small percentage of the people on earth actually doing this. And you can be one of them. You can actually go publish your own book. And honestly, you will find when you tell people, they will be shocked. They will say, that is amazing. That is so cool. Certainly part of it is the fact that you had to write it. That's no mean feat by itself, of course, because that's a lot of content creation. But boy, it's amazing what people think about when they say, wow, I can't believe it. Or the things they say to you. And they say, wow, look, I saw you on Amazon. That is so cool. There's a ton of things there that you can actually leverage more and even say, hey, I have this author page too on Amazon. It's there too. I'll talk about that in another podcast as well, and how to leverage that and other things with their marketing piece. Pretty helpful for authors to be able to, again, connect with their audiences. So if you've climbed that mountain and you've got it all written down and you wanted to get it out there, this is the fastest path. You have complete control. It takes work. Believe me, it's worth it. It ends up being a lot of fun. There are definitely some frustrations and there's definitely some gotchas. I really hope today that I helped you with some of those gotchas and you go through the process and get your book out there. Get your content out there. Start posting about it. Start talking about it on social media. Start marketing it. Tell your friends. You'll be amazed. Who knows? Your ego may explode. I don't know. People are amazed that you can write a book. Start posting about it. And hopefully you too, with these books and the posts, that you too can go from posts to profit. Certainly hope this was helpful today. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate all the feedback, and we'll see you in the next one. Hey, congratulations. You just listened to another episode of the Self-Pub Empire podcast. I really hope you found something inspiring, useful, and actionable for your own entrepreneurial and business aspirations. Let's keep connecting as solopreneurs, authors, and online creators of all kinds. For more information, how-tos, great tools, and show notes for the show, head over to selfpubempire.com/podcast. Until next time, let's continue moving from posts to profit.